Passive Juventus performance has exposed Chelsea's biggest flaw, which could cost Thomas Tuchel. Chelsea's passive and inept display away to Juventus did little to get the Blues back on track and more to remind supporters of painful collapses of the past that need to be expelled. It could be tempting to contrast Chelsea's disappointment at the Allianz Stadium on Wednesday evening with the dismal scenes of November 2012, which spelt the end of Roberto Di Matteo's reign as head coach. But this forgettable outing does not need a comparison from 9 years ago. This failure had all the hallmarks of very recent setbacks that have sadly become synonymous with Chelsea over the past 4 years with the same number of head coaches. Passive in possession, exposed in transition and toothless in attack. For all of Thomas Tuchel's brilliant work, this was a pretty bleak night for the European champions. Despite a dominant opening spell of possession from Chelsea, the warning signs for Federico Chies's opener were quite present in the first period as Mateo Kovacic seemingly tried his best to initiate Juventus counter-attacking opportunities. Both Kovacic and Jorginho without the outstanding N'Golo Kante were easily bypassed, and if it wasn't for some woeful decision-making by Juventus in the final third, Chelsea could have easily been behind for the break. Tuchel's baffling call to keep Marcos Alonso in the lineup was further heightened by the lack of width or quality provided by the wing-back during his 45-minute involvement, which was cut short rightly for the long-awaited return of Ben Chilwell. Hakim Ziyech, another surprise inclusion from the off, did little to justify him remaining in the starting lineup. Giving away several fouls and at one point aimlessly booting the ball out of play. For some fans, Ziyech should be given a bigger starting role at Chelsea. For what? I'm still figuring that part out. With hope of the introduction of Chilwell and an improved second half, all plans were tossed out within a minute of the restart when Juve's biggest threat Chiesa caught a usually focused Blues defense napping and clinically rifled home. It was nice to see Ruben Loftus-Cheek, Callum Hudson-Odoi and Trevoh Chalobah all enter the fray as Tuchel lost his patience, but the tempo had been set. But Juventus' low block remained diligent, with a standout performance from Matthijs de Ligt kept both Romelu Lukaku and Kai Havertz quiet. Lukaku, like against Manchester City, was isolated and forced out of the game. For such an outstanding forward to be relegated to at best to a basic target man was a crime for a player that should transform our recent issues. Even the forgotten Ross Barkley got on, probably more symbolic of Tuchel's injury issues and anger towards the performance than a staggering return for the isolated midfielder. Thomas Tuchel has done an incredible job to take a club that for 7 years had not won a Champions League knockout tie, all the way to the triumph in the final in Porto in May. But this is the sort of ramshackle performance that have been witnessed far too often since our last title triumph. Granted, it is still Juventus away. Chiesa is an incredible talent and Chelsea were playing in one of Europe's grandest venues. But you couldn't help but feel a sense of déjà vu watching Chelsea slowly shuttle the ball from side to side, lacking invention or expression. Chelsea have only mustered one shot on target in the previous 2 games. The ramifications for this defeat are felt more severe than the one to Manchester City. Breaking down low blocks has been a persistent issue for us for some time and is the obstacle facing Tuchel to improve Chelsea's chances in the Premier League title race. I am also not going to swerve the deep fear of a typical Chelsea collapse on the horizon. A collapse is usually reserved for the winter months but could arrive in autumn this term. The night also further heightened the importance of Mason Mount, who is so vital to the team's pressing, tactical intelligence, creativity and leadership. The 22-year-old has come to represent all that is brilliant about Chelsea over the past 2 seasons, and it is about time that older peers prove they can hold similar levels of responsibility when he is absent. For Tuchel, he will need a big response against Southampton that involves more energy, belief in fringe figures like Hudson-Odoi and Loftus-Cheek, and evidence this has only been a brief blip and not representative of a wider downwards trend. For a squad of our quality, 1 shot on target in 2 games is simply unacceptable. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel for up-to-date news from all around the globe. Thanks for watching. It was latest football news daily. Have a nice one, and see you in a bit.